Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Judy, and today we're going to talk about why so many people are depressed. And actually, as a society, a worldwide society sometimes, depression is a real issue these days. And I don't know if it's because we didn't talk about it before. I mentioned that in the video before this. You know, in my mother's generation, they didn't talk about mental illness. Or are we becoming more depressed? And now what? You know, spiritually there's an answer, right? So before we get started, if you would hit that subscribe button for me, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, maybe you want to ring that little bell. And then at the end, if I say something here that you find to be helpful, or maybe you have an aha moment about something, or you just think, well, that made some sense. If you would just hit the like button for me too, I would appreciate it. So I don't know if this can be a very long video. I just notice more and more in my world that people seem to be down. And of course, we're just coming out of, and we're not out of it yet, we're just coming out of an almost very close to 2 years of a pandemic, which most people who are alive today have never seen before. In fact, I want to say this may have been one of the worst pandemics ever, because the last one that was really, really big was in the early 1900s, and 100 years ago, people didn't mingle with each other. There wasn't people flying over the world, that kind of stuff. So I don't know that it spread the same way, in the same kind of horrific way that it has spread across the world with this one. Sorry, I got hair in my eye, but there's a lot of things that lead to depression and hairs in your eye. I just felt it go out. There we go. I mean, I can generally say this is probably not true for everybody, of course, or not for every country, or not for every city, or whatever. Just generally, I know a little bit about these things, and I know that, at least in the United States, most of us really eat poorly. First off, we eat way too much, and we eat a lot of processed foods. And you have to understand that what you put in your body affects how you feel, the chemicals in your body, and all of that. So if you're eating poorly or too much, and then you start putting on weight and have health issues, that can actually lead to a depression that is clinical in a physical way rather than an emotional way or a mental way. And then there's the other side of it, where people are completely malnourished and they don't have enough food. And there's plenty of people in the world, and in the United States even, like that. When I was young, I don't know that I was malnourished, but I mean, I know what it's like to be hungry. And if you have to do that all the time and there's no help, people die from that and get very, very sick when they're malnourished. So that certainly is one. And then another thing is, honestly, we're a little bit lazy. I think we sit around a little bit too much, I mean, you have to think of it, even 50 years ago, there was a lot more, you had to get up and do. I know when I was a little girl, we had a washer. It was one of those ringer washers. Most people might not even know what I'm talking about. And there was a lot of work to do in laundry. There was no dryer. You had to hang it up, usually outside, but in the winter you'd put it in the basement all over the place, I mean, little things like that. We did more walking. We didn't drive around as much as we do today. And I mean, I know people that live, in fact, my son lives in an apartment complex that is, there's a little bit of a walk to get to the street because there's so many buildings, but it's not long. And across the street from him is a gas station that has a little, like a mini mart, if he runs out of milk or bread or something like that. He drives there. He could probably walk there and with a little extra exercise, you know. But no, but he's just part of a generation of people that just drive wherever they need to go and don't realize that they don't have to sit all the time. And then we're sitting in front of computers. You know, at work we used to get up and walk around. Now we're sitting in front of computers and with our phones. Everything's sitting. And I hope you're standing to watch this because I'm actually sitting. But you know, I was going to stand to do these videos, but I thought, well, sitting is more living room, you know, so I didn't want to stand. I think a lot of people don't go outside as much, even kids. They're always inside on their tablets or whatever. They're not outside in the sunshine. We could actually be sunlight deficient, meaning we don't have enough vitamin D. And of course, all of these things sort of snowball or cascade into other problems. And if you have all this stuff going on, man, you know, you're probably really depressed. Some people are sleep deprived. I mean, we work like crazy people because we think we have to have a whole lot of stuff. And so we make all this money and we spend it all and we go on nice vacations and we buy more stuff, and stuff doesn't make you happy. Vacations are temporary, and I actually think vacations are a nice waste of money because we all need to sit down and take a break or even just go and do something fun. But if it's taking your finances into a downward spiral, then it's not going to be as much fun because you're going to have to come home to bills that you can't afford, you know? So working so hard, I started talking about sleep deprivation. I mean, we are doing so many things and just to make money. And a lot of us are not getting enough sleep. And I have to be honest with you, I know I don't get enough sleep. I know I don't. I'm one of those people. I don't know if I'm sleep deprived. As you get older, they say you don't need as much sleep. I think I may have gotten to that point, but I'm not sure yet because I do feel sleepy pretty often. But in the mornings, it takes me 2 or 3 cups of coffee to get going, you know. And then I think we're also not socializing as much, and certainly in the past 2 years, a lot of people are affected by being isolated or socially isolated, you know. But I mean, now what happened when COVID came along is a lot of companies said, well, you can work from home. Well, now a lot of companies are saying, well, you know what, you can continue to work from home. You don't really have to come in. Everything worked fine. Or some companies are saying, well, come in 2 or 3 days a week and then you can stay home. And we're not seeing each other. You know, we're not even seeing each other at work. I'll bring my son up again. You know, his business, he is talking to clients all the time. And all of a sudden, they said, well, you can work from home. And so he's working from home. And they just recently said, they're probably thinking, why do we pay rent on a building when these people can work from home and we can just have a small space as kind of a, you know, a hub. And so he's working from home. So he's sitting on his butt in front of a computer for 8 hours and not really getting, he talks to clients, but he's not a client-facing person. So he's just sitting. And I'm sure this is not his story, it's a lot of people's story. And then aside from sitting all day and not at least walking around in the workplace to go to the bathroom or whatever, then he's driving across the street to go to get his milk, you know. And he's just an example of thousands and thousands and thousands of us who are not taking care of ourselves. And I think the changes in lifestyle that we all have experienced, especially the past 2 years, but we can't just blame COVID because we were kind of going that way anyway. I think that those contribute to poor health, physical health, probably mental health, and eventually a lot of people become depressed. And then there's the other side of it too. You know, people are killing each other. We every single day on the news. I swear, I can't remember the last time that I sat down and watched the morning news and I didn't hear about somebody being killed with a gun. I can't remember. Every single day. And I don't live in a city where people are out there shooting each other all the time. I mean, obviously I do, but I think every city is like that. We don't live in a bad city, but whatever a bad city is, I don't know what that meant, but you know what I mean? Sometimes you think, oh, well, that part of that city's always been violent or something, you know. No, that's not the case, but there are people out there, there's so many guns out there, and I'm not going to talk about gun control or any of that, but there's so many guns out there that everybody thinks they have to have one to save themselves from some other. And then we're so desensitized to death. We're so desensitized to killing each other for whatever reasons, and I don't want to get into any kind of debate about that either. But when we think it's okay to kill each other and somebody, just, does something you don't like, and you just shoot them. And you don't think anything about it. There's a lot of people who justify that, and I've talked about that before, but it's so, you don't even know if you can go to the grocery store safely. Nobody wants to go to a movie theater anymore, because of things that have gone on. And I think that we need to recognize that all of these things in the long run are so negative. How are we supposed to have a positive, hopeful attitude, when all this stuff is going around all the time, all these things, and the way we're treating ourselves and the way we're treating each other, it's depressing. So then when we look at it from a spiritual angle, of course, I can tell you straight up, and I believe again with all my heart, even though I've said all that stuff just a couple minutes ago, I do believe we are here for the experience. And certainly all of these things that are causing us to be depressed are experiences that all of us are benefiting from as a group. This is like a massive group lesson, that we're all experiencing from different points of view, but we're all experiencing it. And it's really been in the past, I'll say 30 years or so, I think much worse than it has been before. And certainly in the last 10 years, I can say that I feel like, especially gun violence and stuff, has gotten worse. But they're experiences, aren't they? So in the long run, again, no bad karma, all good. We came into a life, we're experiencing all this stuff. Feeling depressed is something that we all need to know what that is. So, okay, so we're depressed or we're sad, whatever. So what do you do spiritually? You can accept that these things are lessons that we need to learn, and although we don't like them, and certainly changing things is not out of the question, part of learning about something that's, we'll call it a bad experience, even though we know spiritually there's no bad, but if we call it on earth a physical bad experience, there's no rule that says, oh well, then you just have to experience that for the rest of your life because that's what you came here for. No, part of it is either experiencing the repercussions of that, the consequences. Let's say you kill somebody, you have to go to jail. Well, that's part of the experience. You're learning a lot more than you thought. But we also have the choice. We can make it happen because we choose it. We can also choose to do the opposite. We can choose to go and walk around in the sunlight every day in the afternoon if the sun's out. We can choose to put down our phones or our computers and maybe just play a card game or sit and read a book, or a real book, not one on a tablet, We can choose to eat better foods and try to incorporate at least one meal a day that isn't processed food. I mean, there's things we can do. We can join a gym, or we can just take a walk around the block a couple of times. Or we can just walk to the store to get the milk instead of driving there. I was teaching a class one time. This was probably, it was obviously more than 2 years ago. A face-to-face class, I'm going to say it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I have chairs for all the couples. I teach childbirth education classes, so I have, two chairs. Usually there's 8 to 10 people in a class, or couples in a class. So I had one couple, and they were sitting like really toward the back, but it's kind of like a horseshoe, and I'm here, and then the couples are all around like that. And so I was talking, and the one gentleman, the father, got up and went behind his chair and was standing there. And I thought maybe just you sit all day, you don't want to sit all night, so maybe he was just kind of standing there. He started doing like squats. Nobody could see him because he was in the back, and they were all looking at me, so they didn't really see him doing this. Maybe out of the corner of some of their eyes, but mostly they were all just listening to what I had to say. We were talking about whatever, But he was down there doing squats and stretches. And at first it was a little bit like, well, what's he doing there? But then after a while I realized he was intently listening to me. He was just making sure he wasn't sitting too long and he was getting a little exercise. Is that excessive? I don't know. Is he sitting on his butt all day? Maybe it's not. You know, there's choices we can make. So spiritually, it's not like there's a law or a rule that says, hey, you came into this life to understand what depression's like and to experience that, so now you're never allowed to be happy in this life. Because part of learning how to deal with things is learning how to deal with them in a positive way. That's the spiritual side of it. The spiritual side is always looking at it from the positive. When you look at it from the negative, that's the human way to do it. Does that make sense? So it's like the cup half empty, half full. The people who look at things with the cup half empty are doing things from a physical state. Their consciousness from a physical state. If you look at the glass half full, you're looking at it with a spiritual perspective, with a positive perspective. And that really is the difference between the glass half empty and the glass half full. So we have the opportunity and the freedom to choose. It's a choice. Don't let me kid you. It's a choice. To look at the world with spiritual eyes and not only be grateful for the things that happen to us, but to turn it into something better. Because remember, when you do that for yourself, you are pulling yourself forward along with everybody else around you. Let me know what you think about that. Please leave me a comment. I would love to hear what you think. And I don't expect you to always agree with me. I just want to hear what you think about all this. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next video.